Welcome all you inkjet printer enthusiasts. I know you're out there. Does this look familiar to you? Well, if you're a true printer enthusiast, it should. This is a test printout for my printer, which shows that I have clogged print heads for pretty much all the colors. Now, when you see this, you might be saying to yourself, it's time for me to clean that print head. Well, with this video, I'm going to show you a tip on how to properly do so. Now, most of the videos you see on YouTube will tell you use alcohol to clean your print head. Well, I think there's a better solution. Over here, I have two plastic cups, which I've filled with, over here it's 91% isopropyl alcohol, and over here is filled with ethylene glycol, 50% ethylene glycol, 50% water. Now, my logic is in using ethylene glycol as opposed to using alcohol is that the pigment-based inks already contain propylene glycol in it. So I would think if the ink contains propylene glycol as its solvent, it would be wise to use also a glycol-based solvent to clean it, which in this case is I'm using ethylene glycol. I didn't have propylene glycol, but they pretty much are the same. And over here, I have two aluminum foils that I've cut up into squares, and then I smeared some Epson black pigment-based ink. So these have been air drying for about an hour, and they're not completely dry. They're still very much wet. So I'm going to show you what happens when you dip these ink into each of these solvents. I just wanted to give one warning that ethylene glycol is poisonous. So you got to make sure that you don't handle it with your bare hands. And if you spill it, make sure you clean it off and keep it away from your kids or your pets, because ethylene glycol will taste sweet to them, and they might think it's soft drink it up, but it's poison. So make sure you keep it away from them. And if you want to go the safer route, use propylene glycol, which you could buy online. And for me, knowing the risk, I just went to my local Walmart and bought engine coolant, Prestone brand, which is, I think it was half a gallon, and I paid $7 for it. So it's 50% ethylene glycol, 50% water. So it's an antifreeze and a coolant. So that's what this is. Okay, now let's see how the inks respond to each of these fluids. So I'm submerging each of these samples. So I'm just gonna agitate it. As you can see, the one with the ethylene glycol is already dissolving, while the alcohol one is pretty much not doing anything. So the ethylene glycol one, the inks is pretty much 50% is pretty much off the aluminum foil, and the fluid has gotten darker, as you can see, while the alcohol one is still not doing anything. It is starting to crack, the ink. Let me add some more alcohol to that. Okay, let's agitate this some more. Well, I think that speaks for itself. I don't know if the camera picks it up. Maybe it shows a little bit. You can see the ink, like it's starting to crack. It's like it's breaking up, but it's breaking up into clumps. Now, if I leave this here for a few more minutes, the ink will eventually start to break up, but it doesn't dissolve into the alcohol. Instead, it just breaks up into clumps. As opposed to with the ethylene glycol, it pretty much dissolves right into the fluid. So I don't know about you, but I think I prefer to use ethylene glycol to clean my printhead. So if I was going to flush my printhead, I would want to use ethylene glycol, as it will dissolve the ink into smaller particulates and aid in flushing all that dried up ink much better. So you're not reclogging the tiny ink nozzles with clumps of ink like you would here. So somebody who didn't know any better and they used alcohol to inject into their printhead to try to flush all that ink, it's pretty much not going to do much of anything. And if it does break up the dried up ink, it's pretty much going to break it up into clumps, which could end up just clogging your printhead nozzles even further. And one advantage of using ethylene glycol, or why the inkjet manufacturer uses propylene glycol, is that it doesn't evaporate as quickly as alcohol or water. So the ink remains into solution much longer, as opposed to using alcohol. So with alcohol, once that alcohol evaporates, and it evaporates fast, then it leaves behind all that clumped up ink. And now, let's see what this one looks like. See, that's pretty much all dissolved. Right there. It's like 80% of it is gone already. So just for fun, let's see if the ethylene glycol can clean this mess up. Okay. There it is, instantly. Let me just pull it out. It may not show properly on camera, but you could see the clumps. You see what the alcohol did to the ink. It's like it clumps it up, but then the ethylene glycol breaks it all up. So it's nearly instantly, it just starts breaking it up. Let me just pull it up. See? Half of it is already broken up. So there you have it. If you're thinking of cleaning or flushing your printhead, use propylene glycol or ethylene glycol, as opposed to using alcohol, or even just use plain water. Plain water will work better than alcohol. Actually, I've tested it. So use either use plain water or just ethylene glycol, propylene glycol, and you should be good. Also, when you, the reason I came up with this solution is when I bought my airless paint sprayer to spray the house. It came with this fluid that you're supposed to put inside the sprayer to prevent it from corroding and to keep the paint that's already inside the sprayer from drying up and clogging the sprayer. And that fluid is pretty much propylene glycol. So that's how I got the idea from. All right, until next time, I hope you learned something, and I hope you could fix your print heads much better. Until later, bye.